are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 148 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, on Twitter/X, and I'm here again joining the day, Mr. Harrison Tarr. Tarr, how you doing, buddy?
Good to be back. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. Sorry for my absence. I was on a week-long vacation with mom and dad. Went to the Bahamas, went on a little Margaritaville cruise, boat drinks and Pop-Tarts, baby. That was the narrator. And then I've been playing a lot of golf, so I really can't complain. I got to go back to the reality, back to work tomorrow, as the show's coming out. So trying to buck up and come to terms with that.
Yeah, but welcome to the new year. First episode in 2024. We are recording this during halftime of the Rose Bowl, and both of us sitting there hoping and praying that Michigan holds strong for just another half of football. But as an Auburn Sports Podcast, we are talking about Auburn sports, and a couple of news breakouts happened over this last couple of days. Words are hard over the last 24 hours. Starting off with Auburn running back and kick returner Brian Battie has entered his name into the NCAA transfer portal. The transfer out of USF, the former All-American at the kick return position, has announced that he is going to be leaving the team and finding another landing spot.
Yeah, some interesting news there. Kind of something I didn't particularly expect. I did not look into my magic 8-ball and see that Brian Battie was going to hit the transfer portal. But let's be honest here, guys. I don't think that Brian Battie doesn't have a talent. I just don't think it worked at Auburn. It wasn't anything spectacular. Some kick return decisions were questionable at best. And there were just not a lot of moments where you looked and said, wow, this guy's a difference maker. He had a couple of good games on the ground, specifically when Jarquez Hunter was injured, but it's nothing that you look at and say this guy's irreplaceable. No disrespect to him, wishing him the best. His New Year's resolution should be to have a little better discretion on returning kicks. And that's not me being facetious or not being a jerk. I think he's got a ton of talent. You just have to have discretion as to when you can return a kick, and you can't house everything. So running east and west is not always your best move there. Just the film doesn't lie. Now it begs the question, Dylan. Who will return kicks for Auburn in 2024? There's a couple guys I know you hope it's not.
Well, I know one of your boys is I'm hoping isn't going to be back there returning anything anymore, and Coy Moore. But just going through the list of names, I mean, the first one that comes to my mind right off the bat is the guy who also plays the same position that Brian Battie plays as the running back, and that's Jeremiah Cobb. A guy who was an electric returner at Montgomery Catholic, and seeing the level of play that he can get to, the speed, his decision-making that we're already seeing from him as a freshman. I mean, everything screams Jeremiah Cobb, kick returner in 2024. But let's not forget, in another world, per se, if something else were to happen, there is a guy coming out of Maryland who returned to kickoff for a touchdown in his state championship game, but I don't want to get too boog over here.
No cart before the horse action.
Yeah, Jeremiah Cobb is a guy who I'm looking directly at. I don't know if Keontae Scott gets that nod at kick returner. He's a great punt returner. I don't know how well he'd fare at a kick returner position.
I'm with you. I would think Jeremiah Cobb would be the shoe in there, but I don't think that there's necessarily an incumbent. I think that it will be a lot of spring practice figuring that one out. You certainly want it to probably be a returner in all likelihood. So we'll find out probably more through spring and have a better idea as we approach before fall camp. I would imagine that situation will be resolved. But an interesting hole there. Also be interesting to see where Brian Battie winds up. There are certainly plenty of organizations, clubs that can use him. It's just I don't think Auburn was the right spot even in the first place. Not that I have anything against him, it just didn't work. So that's something interesting there, Dylan.
I'm trying to go through his stats for the year real quick. 51 carries, 227 yards, got one touchdown on the ground. I believe it was like a hard – I think it was a goal line touchdown is what he got. I don't remember the game exactly, but I do remember a goal line touchdown. 4.5 yards per carry. Also had 7 catches for 52 yards, 7.4 yards per catch. And then what he came here to do, 29 kick returns for 645 yards, his longest being 39 yards. He averaged 22.2 yards per return. Just as you said, didn't work out. Was brought in as a return man, saw plays as an all-purpose back, didn't really make it, didn't really shine. And when he needed to, and definitely was outplayed by Damari Alston. And I think Auburn is retaining enough talent at the running back position to where this is not a huge loss for the team.
I agree. And also, let's not forget before we move forward, Dylan, when Jarquez Hunter returned to this rotation, there just weren't enough touches to go around. It's not necessarily Battie's fault. There just weren't enough touches because you're going to feed 27. And then if you're not feeding 27, you're going to feed 22. And so on and so forth. And Brian Battie just kind of found himself further down that ladder. So interesting to see where he winds up. Wishing him the best of luck in 2024 and beyond. Other news, Dylan. Zion Puckett made his announcement official, which we knew was going to happen.
Yep.
We assumed was going to happen. So that's exciting for Zion Puckett. Wishing him the best. Beyond that, commitment, Dylan.
Well, just speak on Zion Puckett for a little bit, because he's a guy who I'm very interested to see, because Auburn's sending off 4 defensive backs to the NFL draft. Jalen Simpson, DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, and, of course, Zion Puckett. 3 of those guys I see as being very draftable. Zion Puckett, I'd find it very interesting to see how his draft process goes, because I don't see a world where he stays in the league as a safety.
Agree.
At 6 foot 226, I mean, he was a hard-hitting safety. He is every single bit of the word of a hard-hitting safety. 37 tackles, 2 PBUs, 1 sack, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions on the year. But a guy who just lacks that X factor in coverage. But if you need a guy to just lower their shoulder and pound someone to the ground, that's your dude. And I'd be very interested to see how his scouting process goes for him.
Combine can be very, very helpful to Zion Puckett.
It gets a combine invite. His pro day, probably. He'll probably be a pro day guy.
They're a little interchangeable in my brain. I know the combine means you're most likely for sure getting drafted, but I guess let me rephrase that. Pro day can be very, very beneficial for Zion Puckett, and that'll be something interesting that we'll want to watch film on coming up here shortly in the very, very near future. Beyond that, one commitment, Dylan, to report, and I know that you're excited because Auburn's starting to compile commits years in advance, which doesn't feel like has happened in a long time.
Oh, it's so nice. Auburn got their second commit of the class of 2026, a class that's currently in the top 10 all over the place. I think 8 on Rivals, and I think it was 8 on 24/7, somewhere around there. 8-7 is where I've seen. But they've added their second guy. The first one being Cale Ellis, offensive lineman. Now adding a wide receiver in Denarius Gray out of Hollywood, Florida. Dude is only a sophomore, but he has shown signs of being really good. Rivals has him listed as a 4-star wide receiver, and being a 4-star wide receiver in Florida means a lot. I have some pros for
and at a sophomore. That's crazy. That means you can very well be a 5-star by the time you're end of your junior year.
Yeah, and you'll see that as soon as 24/7 starts ranking those guys, because they don't start ranking their 2026 guys until the 2025 guys are all ranked. But what I saw from the film from this guy, he's a man-on-man merchant. He just finds ways to make holes in the coverages. He finds those holes. He gets there. He gets open for his quarterbacks. He's a great tip drill guy. Whenever I saw one play where his quarterback got distressed and he cut back inside and scored a touchdown on it. And also he's a physical blocker. Whenever they needed him to on screen passes or run play, you will see him grabbing the other guy's shoulder pads and bringing him to the ground. That's a lot of stuff. You want to see that out of your wide receivers. You don't want to recruit a guy just to block unless you're Gus Malzahn. But whenever they come in and they already know how to block, that's a great feature to have. And he's 6'1" and 170. I'll get to the
right now.
What right now?
That was actually my next point. Is he's 6'1" at 16. 6'1", 170 at 16. This kid could wind up hitting another growth spurt, be somewhere in that 6'2", 6'3" range. And you keep him on a weight regimen, he could be looking at 190 by his senior year of and muscle mass. 20 pounds over 2 years when you're on a lifting regimen, not crazy to assume. You could be looking at a 195, 200 guy, probably 190, 195 when he comes into college. In terms of actually getting him on that SEC weight training and eating regimen, but great frame.
His height and weight are my pro and my con for him. At 6'1", his arms are he has some long arms. He can high point a ball without jumping, and that's something you don't see out of a guy, especially a sophomore in high school. Right. And my one con is the fact that he is only a sophomore. He's 170, and that's something that can change in a year. in 6 months even. Just if he puts on like 20 more pounds, dude's going to be a freaking boss. And
just this is all speculation here. If you could be looking at knocking that 190 door down or knocking on 190 by the time you graduate high school, and you're in that 185, 187 range coming into a college weight regimen, and where you're actually kind of round the clock being taken care of, you're in great shape. I think you're in really, really good shape. So very excited for Denarius Gray.
Very excited for these next 2 recruiting classes too.
Yeah, it's certainly looking in the correct direction. Should you be rooting for Auburn to pull big recruits of that sort? If you're not, then you probably like Potato a lot. Anyways, we'll continue. We move forward. I know you wanted to touch a little bit on the portal quarterback still, and I think we can kind of buzz through these since that's
So from our understanding, from what we've been hearing, Auburn and Hugh Freeze are going to be locked in to the quarterback room that we are currently bringing in.
I like how you phrased that.
What?
The quarterback room that's currently going to be on the Plains, as opposed to grabbing someone else, as opposed to just naming Peyton Thorne the starter.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne, Hank Brown, Walker White, and Holden Garner are going to be the quarterbacks going to the spring, and that's going to be the quarterbacks that are going to be battling. And I understand the hate. I understand the dislike towards how the quarterbacks looked, and maybe Hank Brown deserves a shot. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe we need to throw in Walker White just to see what happens. I understand all that. Auburn doesn't need a transfer portal quarterback, but I do want to enlighten some people on what has happened with those transfer portal guys that we were targeting over the last month or so. And by targeting, I mean the fans were targeting.
I was about to say the
so much
Auburn Twitter sphere and beyond has been generating buzz over.
The only guy on this list that I'm going to go through is Cam Ward. That's the only guy who ever had any buzz with Auburn. He apparently there was a lot of money that he was asking for, upwards of $2 million. And I just want to let everybody know out there, if Auburn wasn't offering $2 million for a guy to come in and be the game-changing quarterback, they weren't going to offer $3 million to a safety in high school. And that's just going off the Twitter beat from yesterday. But yeah, Cam Ward has announced that he's going to be entering the NFL draft. He was down between, I believe, Miami and the draft. Clearly didn't really see the future with Miami getting drafted, but I guess he's going to go with the NFL draft. Interesting decision from Cam Ward. I don't really see him as like a starter in the NFL. I see him getting drafted, but I don't really see him emerging as a starter.
Project piece.
Yeah, exactly. A project piece. Definitely has some highs and some lows. And it would probably help if he has a decent offensive line at Washington State. Another guy that announced his transport destination, DJ Uiagalelei, has announced that he is going back to the ACC. He is going to Florida State, a current rival of his former team, the Clemson Tigers. And he's going back to Florida State, and he's going to probably be a top quarterback probably be the top quarterback in that conference back in his second try in the ACC. You doing my math there?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Continue.
Drake May's gone. Cade Klubnik is not really him. Miami doesn't have Tyler Van Dyke anymore, and they don't really know who they're going to go with. The only guy I can really think of is Castellanos from BC and Haynes King from Georgia Tech.
You're snubbing Haynes King. Haynes King may be the incumbent as the best quarterback in the ACC. People are gonna hate on that and think I'm sitting here tech glazing, which I am, but like Haynes King played really, really good football this year.
I was gonna get to him.
He's up and down, but like bro could be a solid quarterback going like next year. Like that could be a guy to watch, not like a Heisman guy, but like a guy you're like, wow, that guy's playing really good football. You know what I mean?
There was a solid minute and a half of that Georgia game where I thought he was the truth and was going to lead the Jackets over the Bulldogs. But
he's going to wind up being a top 3 quarterback in Georgia Tech history.
Yes, I can't think of any other ones, but
Justin Thomas.
That name sounds familiar, but I cannot name any.
The triple option GOAT.
There you go.
Maybe Josh Nesbitt. I don't know. I'll discuss that later. If you want to talk,
we'll probably down the College Loop Georgia Tech edition.
Yeah. Don't tempt me with a good time.
And then lastly, a guy who I don't think got any buzz positively from the Auburn Twitter, KJ Jefferson, is going to Orlando, Tar, where you were not too long ago.
Right.
Maybe you drove past him on your way.
Oh, not him, but I did drive past UCF.
He probably was there because he is transferring to Central Florida. Is going to be the quarterback one for the Gus Malzahn-led Golden Knights. Interesting move. I think it's a good fit. And also prohibits Gus Malzahn from him to develop a quarterback that he recruited.
Like just kind of like a little side note on this. I know we're not a UCF pod, nowhere near that, but like Gus Malzahn's the head coach there, so I have the right to talk about this for half a second. KJ Jefferson's going to bring something to UCF that they really need, and that's P5 experience. Like at the quarterback position, the guy can play ball. Like don't let anything this year kind of muck that vision for you, because Arkansas was just unexplainably bad. Inexplainably bad rather this year for I really don't know why, other than things just did not work. It's not like we didn't think that KJ Jefferson was competent or capable. It's just he didn't have help anywhere. I mean, Rocket Sanders was on and off in terms of health, right?
Yeah.
And then you look on the outside, and it's like a different guy playing receiver every single snap because no one's healthy and no one's consistent. I mean, that's not all on KJ. And then his offensive line literally hated him. Like they despised that guy and wanted him to die, and they tried to let him.
One coach is a head coach, and you can't get a solid offensive line.
Yeah,
there's an issue, right?
Yeah, correct. Pittman, seat, scorching. But UCF should be interesting with KJ this year. I mean, they went 6-6 in their first year in the Big 12. I know all UCF fans are impatient about that. That is successful. That is very successful. Jumping from a G5 to a P5 when Texas and Oklahoma are still present. And let's not forget the part where they made some noise out in Norman and tried to screw around with Oklahoma's season. So like that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing KJ in a Gus Malzahn scheme. Excuse me, sorry. Abby, I swear, is the best at calling me when I'm on a podcast. It's awesome. Anyways, let's move into
too before we get to the resolutions. That's gonna be very fun. Just to we brought up Gus Malzahn. This nice little celebration for Bo Nix finally ending his collegiate career, his 7-year collegiate career. Ended off with a huge win over the former stomping grounds of one Hugh Freeze, Liberty. I've heard there's been a lot of buzz around Caden Salter. I don't know how likely he is to transfer, but people are trying to call him out. Getting a market ready for a quarterback who's not in the portal yet is annoying.
Agreed.
But congratulations to Bo Nix for ending off his career. Stat-wise, one of the best to ever do it. Trophy case not really there, but he is on a lot of lists, the top 10 quarterback-wise in college football. So
Bo Nix, you are an Atlanta Falcon. Anyways.
Or Pittsburgh Steelers, whichever one comes first.
No. We got our guy now, dude. Mason Rudolph was the truth after all. I was right from the day we drafted him. I was in the middle of a Mexican restaurant screaming, "We got our guy."
All it took was a helmet to the head. That's all it took.
That's not at all how that went down, and we prefer to not mention that incident and what made that happen. Anyways, before we get into our New Year's resolutions for each of Auburn sports, we're going to talk for just a second and let you guys know, one, Happy New Year to all of you college loop enthusiasts out there. Thank you guys for rocking with us. This is the third calendar year we've taken part of, 2022, 2023, now 2024. That's correct. I know that was a fun little stat for you. It's like when ESPN put up stats that really don't mean as much as they do. That's exactly what I just did. So I made it sound like we're way more established than we are. But you guys are the best. Our New Year's resolution is to love on you guys even more than you guys love on us, because you guys pour out all the support in the world, and it means everything to us. If you guys want to continue to support the podcast, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell right here on the YouTube channel. Drop your comments, drop your thoughts, your New Year's resolutions for Auburn sports, and your personal ones. We want to hear them too. If we've gotten any really funny New Year's resolutions, I'm all for those. I think it's really funny when people are like, I'm going to play less golf, so I'm less miserable. And then I see them on the golf course in like, January 6th or January 5. That happens to me. I don't like using January 6th for anything. I'm going to take that back.
Hey, let's going on January 6th.
That's right. And if you guys want to continue to support us on other platforms, if you're not listening to the YouTube channel, that's completely fine. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out on whatever streaming service you're on. Just make sure you give us 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever the highest rating you can give us, and refer the show to a friend. Just send them a link, send them a not QR code, like a little link in their text messages. Get them to join the loop and make them a looper as well. Another way you can support the show, this one does cost money, but it's some good drip. It's some good drip. Go pick up your very own College Loop War Report Podcast Network co-branded Feel and Loopy t-shirt. Comes in 5 different colorways, $25 a shirt. You can pick those up at thewarreport.com, or you can just grab it from the link in the description to any of our shows. Once you pick up your shirt, make sure you use hashtag Feel and Loopy. That's feeling without a G on whatever social media platform you use. Tag us in it. Tag the show at the College Loop. Dylan will give you that whole rundown at the bottom of the show, and we will make sure we throw up your picture, your selfie on the next show. Thank you guys for continual love and support. Let's rock out in 2024, and let's start by giving our New Year's resolutions for a handful. We've kind of handpicked the bigger, higher profile Auburn sports, so you guys could give us some feedback. But if you've got some like golf, tennis, New Year's resolutions, soccer, we're all for it. Right now, volleyball, that's right. Right now, we're going to run through football, basketball, baseball, softball, and gymnastics. Dylan, we'll start right now. Your New Year's resolution for Auburn football. Go.
For Auburn football, so going into the spring, I don't believe Auburn's going to get a portal quarterback, but I do think that a good New Year's resolution for these 4 guys going into this upcoming quarterback battle would be to develop at the quarterback position. Hugh Freeze is a known and respected quarterback coach, a quarterback whisperer, if you will, and this is his year to prove it. He's already stated he's not going to the portal. He basically has just said that's Peyton Thorne's team going to 2024. Peyton Thorne is anything but developed from this past year. Definitely the time spent on him was shown. The fact he only had really one practice round to go with. I'm going to need to see that. That needs to be a number list on the important list for Auburn football. 1, develop. 2, recruiting.
There you go. Recruiting was going to be my 1B. But my 1A is actually kind of more of a general. You got specific there, Dylan. That's great. But mine in general is going to be fundamentals in terms of winning the games you're supposed to win, in terms of making the plays you're supposed to make, making those routine plays, staying the course with your brand of football, which is run the ball down your throat, open up the pass game. I know that Hugh Freeze is going to continue the RPO look, and that's fine. I love that. I'm genuinely love that scheme of offense. But at the same time, fundamentals and getting back to the point where it doesn't feel like you're plugging holes with duct tape, and you're actually have guys that know their roles on this team. That is what year 2 needs to look like in a rebuild. And that's what Auburn is in the middle of. The college football playoff is off the table in 2024, guys. Go ahead and take it off. If you surprise yourself, great. But right now, it should be playing your brand of football and getting back to the fundamentals. Don't let another team beat you, or don't let other teams beat you, rather, on silly, stupid, fundamental mistakes. And that starts in practice. That starts in the film room. That starts in the weight room. Cross all your I's, dot all your T's. That's my number 1, and my 1B would be continue the hard work on the recruiting trail. If this is year 1 under Hugh Freeze and you don't get a true full cycle, very, very interested and excited to see what year 2 looks like.
And I will say, from what I've been hearing from the press conferences, there is a gripe I've had with the recruiting cycle. It's my one gripe. It's nothing major, but if I were to put another thing on this list, it'd be the only honorable mention thing I'm going to put on here. I think all my things are pretty set in stone for me. Prioritize your game week. Do not spend too much time on one side. Don't spend too much time recruiting and then mess up your game plan. We saw that's happened twice this year. Both of them were embarrassing losses. One of them New Mexico State, the other one Maryland. Prioritize your recruiting when it needs to be done. Your play on the field is the best recruiting pitch you can possibly give to a guy looking to join a team who wants to play competent brand of football in the SEC. Don't lose sight of your goals going into next year.
Mine was a little bit of my resolution was a little bit of an innuendo to those 2 losses as well, Dylan. Yeah. I'm sure you caught that.
I caught that because that New Mexico State game haunts me to this day.
Yeah, it will for the rest of your life. All right, let's roll into our New Year's resolutions for Auburn basketball. I'll go first here, Dylan.
I think men's and women, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We're going to start with Auburn men's basketball, and then we'll roll into women's basketball. I'm going to start with my men's basketball New Year's resolution. Block out the noise. I think Auburn has fallen victim in some moments where they really were a very, very phenomenal basketball team. I don't have to look that far back to remember Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler. And even last year, where you're kind of placing these outside expectations in and of yourself. And you've seen the guys, Bruce Pearl being a player's coach. I've said it once, said it many times, the best coach in the world to coach at Auburn, period. Bruce Pearl. But sometimes I think they get a little caught up in the fact that they are this fun and exciting brand of basketball, and everyone around them is either super high on them or, like this year, super low on them. And I think that group tends to kind of let that seep in. This is just an outsider looking at it. This is just my opinion, my take. If you guys think I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But block out the noise and play the brand of basketball you're committed to. And they are – Auburn has been in years past and has been better this year, bad about getting away and trying to do what their competition is doing. Now, play your game. There are going to be games you're going to lose. You're going to drop a couple games in the SEC. They're going to piss you off, and they should. But lose in your brand of basketball, lose in your form where you're doing and executing the recipe that you know is successful and large for you. It's going to start on Saturday, Dylan. It's going to start at Bud Walton Arena on Saturday. Block out the noise and concentrate on playing hoops. Let the AP poll, let the quadrant system, let Ken Palm take care of itself. Win your games, and you're going to be dancing in March. All that matters is that you're dancing in March. I would like to see Auburn as a top 5 seed in March, and I don't think that's unreasonable to ask for. By the way,
oh no,
that and learn how to play in the damn SEC tournament. Learn how to play in the damn SEC tournament. I am sick and tired of early exits. They are infuriating when you are much better than these teams you're playing. That's what I've got.
Mine kind of goes along the same lines as that. Mine's don't peak early. Don't play your best brand of basketball play your best brand of basketball, but don't use all of your energy in the middle of the season whenever you need your energy for the latter half. This is the SEC schedule never gets easier. It never does. It's always a tough stretch of games every week, every practice is going to be tough for it. We have seen Auburn teams in the past that have decided to play their hearts out and play their best brands and then win all these games and then fall apart in the latter half of the season. It happens a lot. And so much so that it haunts me every day. Auburn athletics haunts me. It's all I think about, and it haunts. It's spooky season over here for me. But you got to go into the season with you're 10 deep. Not a lot of teams can look at their roster and say they're 10 deep. Stay mellow about it. You have a top roster in the country. Play like it every week. Stay consistent. Don't peak, and then fall off whenever you need to the most. That's how you get those early exit SEC tournament. That's how you fall off in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Auburn has a chance to do something special with this team. They have 2 tournament caliber starting 5s on one roster. Play that way. And if one guy's, pick up your guys whenever you need to.
I think to summarize what you and I both said before we switch into the Auburn women's hoops and then kind of start come down the stretch so we can go back and watch all Alabama, Michigan, Dylan. The highs have been very high and the lows have been very low. Find a middle ground. You don't want your highs to come in February. You don't want to. Let your high be in March and your low come as soon as your run ends in March. Don't let it happen during the run, but let that high be there and find that middle ground. Find a way to stay even keel. It's kind of tough to do when you've got a guy like BP. He's got a ton of energy and he's very, very high a lot, all the time, and does not really let himself get down, but it's hard to do with that mellow kind of keeping an even keel. I think a guy that does a great job of that is Jalen Williams, about staying kind of even keel. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not wearing too much on his sleeve as Dylan's getting flooded with text messages. All right, Auburn women's basketball. I'll start here, Dylan. Trust the process. All right, you're in year 3 of a rebuild. This SEC slate's still extremely tough, and there's a large talent gap in the SEC. There's just not a ton of parity in the SEC. I don't really care what people say. The rich keep getting richer, and the poor keep staying poor. And the SEC and the women's basketball front. Coach Jay is trying to flip that script and change that narrative. I think she's done a phenomenal job. Stay the course. For the fans, you are a huge, huge, huge part of this. Stay the course and continue to support this team because you've got the remedy. You have the formula. There are going to be some losses that are going to be infuriating in this SEC slate. And there's going to be a good number of them. If Auburn can jump get out of the SEC play around 500, maybe just north of 500, this is a tremendous success. If they're just below 500, this is still a success. You've got to get back to a point where you're competing on a night in, night out basis. So stay the course and then go win a couple games in the SEC tournament. Maybe sneak into the NCAA tournament. Low seed, I acknowledge, but try to find a way to sneak in there so you can continue to establish the brand and stay the course. That's my whole mantra for women's hoops in 2024.
Yeah, my resolution is kind of a goal. It's making the NCAA tournament. And you get there by doing several steps. You have to be consistent every night. We've seen the lows of this team in those 2 losses, and we've seen how inconsistent they can get if things aren't going their way. So to get to the NCAA tournament, you have to get consistent. You have to be ready to play. And starting off in just a couple of days now, you're going to go off against a very tough opponent. And luckily, that game's in Neville Arena, correct?
Right.
Make sure you're going to get them at home. But this is a team, nonetheless, that has history. This is one of the premier programs in the sport.
Pat Summitt used to coach there. We don't need to say more.
Exactly. So to get there, you need to do all of these things. You need to be consistent offensively as well as defensively. My resolution is just play good a lot, often. Even.
That's a good one. And that rings for a lot of people.
You were just off of getting the NCAA tournament. They got off of having to be the first team to play in the SEC tournament. That's a step in the right direction. The SEC, this team is talented enough to be a scary team later in the season.
Agree, 100%.
Prove it and make the NCAA tournament. Prove all the naysayers wrong and load up the Ville.
And that helps with recruiting big time. And that's what Coach Jay needs her girls support with, and the fans need your support with, and selling a product and a brand. All right, Auburn baseball, Dylan, give me your 2024 New Year's resolution.
Auburn baseball, get in that weight room, get conditioning, because y'all need to stay healthy. This team fell apart later in the season because of health. You lost Joseph Gonzalez early due to an injury that kept just bugging him. First base, not Ike Irish. Who was first base? Not Ike Irish. Blanket. Cooper McMurray.
Thank you.
He couldn't get on the field. He was on and off the field a lot. The outfield was just struggling to stay healthy. If you want to get Butch Thompson a much-deserved championship at some point in his career, you need to do that by making sure that your best 9 is always on the field at the same time. And the only way you can do that is get healthy, stay healthy, and if you're don't push yourself if something's hurting. If you got a little tweak in your shoulder, get it looked at, get some ice on it. Don't throw some 90-mile-an-hour fastballs during warmups. Stay healthy and prove that Auburn is a premier program in the sport.
All right, Dylan, buckle up because I'm about to ruffle some feathers here. I'm a Butch Thompson supporter through and through. Truthfully, I think he has. I argue that he's actually had a more impressive feat than that of Bruce Pearl at Auburn, and Bruce has been spectacular. But what Butch Thompson has done for this baseball program has not gone unnoticed and never should. Folks, first and foremost, New Year's resolution for Auburn baseball is to figure out your bullpen early. That's the first part. Figure out how you're going to help that starting rotation. I think they're going to be fine. Jogo comes back healthy, and you're cooking. You're in business. You've got your Friday night guy, and you can get out to a 1-0 lead in weekend series quite quickly. It's time to go make a run at the big one. And I know that is a lofty expectation, but it's time to not only host a regional and compete in a super regional. I almost called it a national regional. That's not how that works. Not only time to host a regional and compete in a super regional. I'm not expecting you to host there, but I am expecting you to make a solid push within reason and be in position that you could compete at a College World Series level. This group has a ton of talent. They're young. They're really young, and you got to figure out your 9 early. And I know that can be bumpy in the non-con. That's what the non-con's for. But it is time. I'm not looking at Butch as much as I'm looking at his guys to kind of play as one, to completely play as a team and put something together. Also, this is going to be a running theme here, Dylan. Damn it. Don't make me waste my time going to Hoover this year. Do not make me waste my time going to Hoover this year when you go to the SEC tournament. I am sick and tired of it. And I know Butch can't be happy about it. He's got to pull his hair out when they have to go play at the Hoover Met. Play good baseball at the end of the year, kind of like you were talking for basketball. But put yourself in a position that you're not the underdog. You're not anymore. Butch Thompson has brought this program to national recognition for a reason. You're not the underdog. You've got a target on your back. Play like it. Play like it. All right, let's go into Auburn softball, Dylan. I'm going to leave this one and let you anchor because I know you're going to have be kind of feisty here. I'm going to be mean as hell. I'm going to be really mean. Auburn softball, I love you dearly. I really do. No better way to spend an afternoon in the spring than over at J.B. Moore. You agree, Dylan? I know you do.
I agree.
Mickey Dean, it is time to – what's the phrase I'm going to go with? I was going to go with something else, but it didn't feel appropriate. Step up. We'll go with step up. I was going to use I was going to say NUT up, but that felt wrong. It's time to step up and show that it was not just the group you had last year that was pushing you to the heights that you feel like that you could be at. It's time for you to also prove to the Auburn fan base that you are not what's holding this team back, because there's a lot of people looking right at you when it comes to, well, why hasn't Auburn made a real push for the College World Series yet? It feels like they've got plenty of talent. They have. You've got a young lady coming back in the circle who is outstanding, and you've got a great group around her. Do more with what you would consider technically less, even though I think this team's going to be just fine this year. Do more with less this year and prove that you're not the problem. That needs to be the program's resolution. Otherwise, the resolution needs to be moving on. So this is make or break for me this year, Dylan.
You're so right. I completely agree. And going to your point, you have to prove that the pieces you've lost aren't what made your team. You're going to have to go into a year where I think I think Auburn plays Clemson this year, but if they do, you have to play Lindsey Garcia. South Carolina's got Denver Bryant. Arkansas is your very early on in the season, March 15th to the 17th. That's got Brialis. That's that is one of your. I think in only 2 years she was second in career home runs, if I'm not mistaken. That's a huge piece that left. And of course, you had Jesse Blaine at Mississippi State, and those are key players who ended up leaving because of the program that Mickey Dean was running. And now you're going to go to a year, and I'm just going to get off of that and go to mine. I need to see a consistent day one, day two pitcher. Of course, you got Matty Penta, who is the best pitcher in the sport. And I will say that. I will tweet that. I will put a quote graphic. I will do anything I can to tell the world Matty Penta is the best pitcher in the sport. Now going in after that, Shelby Lowe is very good, inconsistent at times.
And banged up.
After Shelby, you don't really know what you're getting out of either Annabelle or Emma at any given time. At some points, they gave up a lot of runs and weren't getting consistent strikes or just getting it over the plate. Got to establish one of those two as your girl going into either day two or day one, because, of course, Matty Penta is going to be your day two or day three. You got to find someone who can step in and on the plate, on the mound at that point of the game. Give Matty Penta or Shelby Lowe a break by making sure that one of those two are established. And Emma had a very good fall ball. Annabella did as well, but you weren't playing the highest level of competition, I must say. But going to the SEC play, those weekends are going to be tough, especially if you're playing Arkansas, where you're going to have to deal with at least one batter who has already proven that she can rake, in Jane B. Moore. Find someone who can be a solid third string, just to mix in the other sports, behind Maddie and Shelby.
Agree. I love it. Going into gymnastics, I'll start, let you close, and then we'll roll into our little quick preview about Auburn basketball and get the heck out of Dodge. I've got a quick one and an easy one for Auburn gymnastics. Find your dynamite. I think that's actually what I'm gonna use as kind of my slogan for Auburn gymnastics this year. Is find your dynamite. Find your athlete, your competitor that's going to be the heart and soul of this team. And it could be Sophia Groth. I mean, that's certainly an option there. And Cassie obviously bringing back experience, but find your athlete that not only is going to perform at a high level in the all around or in their specific event, but it's going to bring the energy to that team. If you look back a year ago, it was clearly Darion Goborn. If you look the year before that, Sunisha Lee played a role for certain, probably Darion still. You got to find your Darion this year. And I'm not just talking about someone who's that damn good at floor. I'm not looking at that. But find your dynamite, someone that can be that spark that brings out the best and those around her. And like I said, I'm a little bit looking to Sophia Groth for this because she's kind of just a fan favorite and also beloved by her teammates and coaches. But you're going to be a little bit of an underdog in some meets this year. That's going to happen. Find ways, find your non-coach, your athlete, that's going to make the people around her and make her teammates better. And I think you're going to be just fine there. You can wind up surprising a lot of people and being a damn good team yet again. But it's going to take cohesiveness, even though obviously you compete individually. You've got to have someone that you can turn around and say, man, I didn't put up my best performance on insert rotation here. But they say, hey, head up, next man up mentality.
And just for me, focusing on one rotation in general, I mean, looking at last season, Auburn was very solid at the bars, at the beam, at the floor. But the one rotation that they could never really get consistent at was the vault. And the preview meet, you saw that a little bit, a lot of it maybe. get consistent at the vault. If you have one bad rotation, it can make or break a meet. You have, as we're recording this and as it comes out, 4 days before your first quad meet against Alabama, UCLA, and Cal in Las Vegas. Now, I'm not going to say Auburn's going to win that meet, especially with UCLA being there. But if you want to win in the SEC, if you want to prove that you weren't just based, your team success was not based on Darion Goborn and Suni Lee and the amazing season that Cassie Stevens had last year, you need to prove that on all 4 rotations and all 4 points of your game. That starts with the vault. That was the weakest position that this team had last year. Get better. Get consistent. Make those land. Don't get too heavy-handed on it and lift off a little too hard, like we saw a lot. The Alabama meet in that airport hangar definitely showed off a lot. That's where that is the one memory I have of the vault being that bad and that inconsistent was against Alabama in that meet last season. But if you want to compete in the SEC without your heavy hitters that you had in Darion Goborn and Suni Lee, it starts with fixing your mistakes at the vault.
100% agree, Dylan. And as we wrap things up, make sure you drop in the comment section if you're listening on YouTube. If not, tweet at us and let us know what your New Year's resolutions are for each Auburn sport respectively. And if you have any extras you want to throw in there, we're all ears. We'll make sure we throw them up on the stream. Definitely want to hear you guys' insight and your takes on this. Let's pivot over to Auburn basketball as they get prepared to take on Penn. Today as the show comes out. Is it a Wednesday game or a Tuesday game? I'm tripping.
It's tonight.
Tonight's the show. I just gaslit myself is exactly what happened. I gaslit myself into thinking this was a Wednesday game. And
tonight, 8 o'clock p.m. Central, 9 o'clock Eastern.
I'm a little bit upset that Slackert's last name starts with an S because I was getting ready to make a really funny like beer reference and say the only 3 things you got to worry about are PBR, but it's not. It's PBS. So public broadcasting system it is. It's Slackert, Perkins, and Brown that you've got to look for Penn. This team is middle of the road, but they always find a way to kind of sneak into the tournament because they usually run the table in the Ivy League. And it's usually Penn or Yale. Princeton usually right there too. That can compete. So this is a team you don't want to overlook and you want to make sure you thump. But it's going to take some perimeter defending, Dylan. I mean, this team composite, this Penn team, shooting 39% from three. Their top 3 rotational guys that I just mentioned, 43.4, 35.6, and 45.3 from 3. This group can knock it down from deep. It's about perimeter defending. This is a great way to prep coming into the SEC slate. Very few conferences in the world shoot the 3 ball at the level the SEC does just because of talent. And it's tough, except for I think the Ivy League usually leads in 3-point percentages and attempts, but that's neither here nor there. I'd have to fact check that. But very, very good opportunity for Bruce Pearl's team to focus on defense this week. Continue playing your brand of offense. Don't change a damn thing. Don't. You know the formula. You know the guy that's under the bucket. He's pretty tall. He's got some sick dreads. Let him take care of cleaning up the glass and let Dylan Cardwell come in and do what he can do. Let your guards handle I guess the business down on the offensive end of the floor. But I'm really looking at Bruce Pearl's team to play some solid perimeter defense, something that they've not had to do a ton of to this point this year because not many teams are shooting the 3 ball like this Penn team is. So Dylan, I'm really, really interested to see who can step up here. For me, it starts with CBM. It starts with CBM, with KD Johnson, and with Denver Jones in terms of can you turn around and actually make sure you're guarding at the perimeter. We know what Aiden Holloway can do, and he can kind of step up and play to anybody's level that's around him. Those 3 guys, though, very interested to see how they can step up and defend the perimeter and let their bigs take care of the business on the glass.
Yeah, it's nice little break, too. The last couple of games Auburn played had some dudes who can come in and rotate. Penn, not really a deep team. They really only have 5 that go over 20 minutes. And then after that kind of trickles down from 16 all the way to 9 for guys who really get in the game more often than not.
Sure.
You're looking at I'm looking at the bench. Prove that your second 5 is better than their 5 at any given point of the game. KD Johnson, CBM have been some of the highest points of the season thus far from the bench, and so is Dylan Cardwell. Keep playing your brand of basketball. Keep showing that your 10 is better than your 5 from start to finish. Because you're going to be playing against a very tough Arkansas team and a very tough Arkansas environment in just a few days. It's going to be a tough game. We'll preview that on the Thursday show and get more in depth on that. But your preparation for Arkansas starts with your preparation for Penn. You needed to be able to defend the 3 in the SEC. The SEC, I feel like the SEC is one of the highest like 3-point percentage shooting conferences in the country because every team does it. Every team wants to make the 3 ball. And if you want to stop the 3, it starts with stopping a mid-major that's pretty good at shooting that rock from beyond the arc. And of course, we brought up earlier, they have 2 of their top dudes shoot 40 plus from the 3-point line. And as a team, they're shooting 39. Now, if you can force fouls, this is not a very good free throw shooting team in Penn. For some reason, those Ivy League schools can shoot the ball very well from beyond the 3-point line, but when they get up to the free throw line, nope. But yeah, looking at Katie Johnson, CBM, and Dylan Cardwell in this game just proved that the guys coming off the bench are just as good as the guys that are on the starting 5.
Absolutely. And we will recap Auburn's clash with Penn on the Thursday show since it comes out this evening, or this show comes out in the morning before the game is being played this evening. And we will also preview Auburn's clash with Arkansas, not to mention Auburn women's basketball's clash with the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. So we will make sure we cover all that. Until then, that's all we've got today for the College Loop podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell right here on the YouTube channel. Drop a comment and give us your thoughts on anything we've talked about or any talking points that you think that we've missed that you want us to hash on the Thursday show. Always absolutely looking for hashtag content. Thank you guys for your continual love and support. I almost said my introduction, but I forgot. If you guys want to continue to support the show, make sure you go to overthewarreport.com, pick up your very own College Loop War Report co-branded Feeling Loopy t-shirt. That is on thewarreport.com. You can grab that link from the description of any of our shows. Comes in 5 different colorways, $25. Everybody looks good in the Feeling Loopy t-shirt. Moving forward from that, if you purchase your very own Feeling Loopy shirt, make sure you use hashtag Feeling Loopy, feeling without the G, on whatever social media platform you prefer, whatever makes you the happiest. Tag us in it. Make sure you tag the College Loop, and we'll throw it up on the next show. I'm Harrison Tarr at by Harrison Tarr on the Bird app and on Instagram if you want to come hang out. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. Love yourselves. Love each other. Happy New Year. 2024 is going to be a kick-ass year, and all of us are going to ball out. Whether we're wearing orange and blue and competing on a field or just rocking out in day-to-day life. We're going to have a great year. I can feel it. I can feel it in my gut. So, Dylan, I'm going to let you get us out of here, and we're going to go back and watch what's the remainder of the second half of Alabama, Michigan. I'm just going to go ahead and say congratulations to Michigan for winning the Rose Bowl. It's going to be awesome for tomorrow's show, and it's going to age so poorly. Someone clip this for me when Bama wins, and we'll move forward. I also have a can't-lose parlay on Texas for tonight. So congratulations to Washington for making the national championship. Since I bet on Texas, never bet on the Horns. All right, Dylan, let's go.
Good Lord. I'm Dylan Larck, @boytank on Twitter/X. Of course, you can find me on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, at DYLANLARCK. And of course, having right here on the College Loop, which like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your New Year's resolutions for Auburn football, basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics, any sport that you think needs to fix something going into this new year. Leave it below. Leave your predictions for Auburn Penn. Leave your predictions for literally any other Auburn sport going on right now. And we will make sure if you get it right, we'll shout it out. We would have shouted out the Music City Bowl prediction, but like me being a dummy, we all picked Auburn to win. But there you go. So no one really got to win that one. But of course, if you are looking for other social medias for us, you have us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works, all at the College Loop. And of course, if you're tired of seeing our faces, completely understand it. You can go check us out in the audio versions of the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, Amazon Music. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, whatever you want to leave. Just show some love to us. And of course, we'll show some love to y'all as well, because we love all 727 of y'all that subscribe to the show and watch it every week. And with all of that being said, this has been the 2024 edition of the College Loop podcast. Tar, you're saying?
Oh, love you guys.
There you go.